On my 64th birthday, I found a box waiting at my door. Not just any box. It was carefully wrapped in heavy, dark paper tied with a silk ribbon. No card, no sender's name, no clue who could have left it there. It looked expensive, too expensive. The kind of gift you'd expect from a company executive, not from anyone in my quiet little life. For a moment, I just stared at it, wondering if someone had made a mistake. When I finally carried it inside and peeled back the paper, a chill ran down my spine. Inside was a bottle of wine unlike anything I'd ever seen. Deep green glass, embossed gold lettering across the label. The kind of bottle you see behind glass in high-end shops. The kind that costs more than I'd spend on a month's groceries. But what unsettled me wasn't the wine itself. It was a tiny slip of paper tucked under the ribbon. Just one word, written hastily in familiar, slanted letters. It was my daughter's handwriting. Emily's. My chest tightened. She never sent me gifts like this. Never without a note. Never with this kind of extravagance. That evening, the phone rang. Her voice was bright, almost too bright. "Dad, did you get my present?" "Yes," I said cautiously. "Thank you." It was thoughtful. "Did you try it yet?" she asked quickly. I hesitated, then answered honestly. "No, I don't drink anymore. Doctor's orders. I gave it to your stepmother instead. She loved it." Silence. Long, heavy. And then Emily screamed, "You did what?" Her voice wasn't surprise. It wasn't disappointment. It was panic. And in that instant, my blood ran cold. My name is William Harris. I'm 64 years old, a retired electrician, living in a quiet town in North Carolina. My life, until recently, was steady and simple. I worked hard, paid off my house, and after losing my first wife 15 years ago, I remarried. My wife now, Angela, has been my anchor, patient, steady, the kind of woman who can make a house feel like home. Emily never fully accepted her. To her, Angela was just the stepmother. Nothing more. I always hoped time would soften that edge, but it didn't. The distance between them only grew. And though Emily and I spoke occasionally, something in her tone had changed over the years. She wasn't a little girl who used a tug on my hand at the fair. She was colder, sharper, but nothing prepared me for that scream on the phone. The next morning, everything unraveled. Angela woke doubled over, pale and sweating. At first, she brushed it off as a stomach bug, but by noon she could barely stand. I rushed her to urgent care, fear clawing at my chest the whole drive. The doctor examined her and frowned. "Mild poisoning," he said carefully. "Not lethal, but serious. We'll keep her overnight to stabilize her." Did she eat or drink anything unusual? I froze. "She had some wine last night." I whispered, "Bring us the bottle," the doctor instructed. But when I got home, the counter was bare. The wine was gone. Angela hadn't touched it. She hadn't even left the bed, which meant only one thing. Emily had come back for it. I sat in the kitchen, staring at the empty space where the bottle had been. Emily's scream echoed in my mind. "You did what?" That wasn't the sound of a caring daughter. That was the sound of a plan collapsing. And 2 days later, when I opened a letter from the bank addressed to me, but bearing her name, the truth sharpened. It was a pre-approval for a home equity line of credit on my house. Emily had listed herself as co-owner. My blood ran cold all over again. This wasn't about a gift. It wasn't about family. It was about my home, my life, and everything I had worked for. And from that moment on, I knew. If I wanted to survive this, I couldn't confront her directly. I had to be careful. I had to be patient. Because Emily wasn't just my daughter anymore. She was my enemy. I barely slept that night. I sat at the kitchen table long after Angela had gone to bed, staring at the spot where the wine bottle used to be. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. I kept hearing Emily's voice in my head, that scream, raw and terrified. When I told her who had drunk the wine, I replayed the last week in my mind, every little thing she'd said, the way she insisted on giving me the bottle herself, the way she looked almost too eager when I thanked her. I wanted to believe I was imagining it, that it was all some horrible misunderstanding. But then Angela landed in the hospital, and then the bottle disappeared. That wasn't coincidence. By sunrise, I knew I needed answers. The first thing I did was call the bank. I pretended to be confused about the letter I'd received, asked them to explain why my daughter's name was listed on anything related to my house. The woman on the line was polite, but her words made my blood boil. "It seems your daughter inquired about potential refinancing options. She presented preliminary paperwork showing joint ownership. Without full documentation, of course, we couldn't process anything. But she's clearly preparing for a house that wasn't hers." I thanked the clerk, hung up, and sat in silence. Emily wasn't just reckless. She was deliberate. That afternoon, I drove to the hospital to check on Angela. She was recovering well, color back in her cheeks. The doctor said the labs would take a few more days, but her system was already clearing. Angela smiled weakly. "See? I told you it was probably just bad food." I forced a smile. "Yeah, maybe." But deep down, I knew better. As I sat by her bed, my phone buzzed. A text from Emily. "Dad, just checking in. How are you feeling? You didn't drink the wine, did you?" I stared at the words, my chest tightening. She wasn't asking about Angela. She wasn't asking about my day. She wanted to know if her plan had worked. I typed back slowly. "No, I didn't." "Why?" No reply. Just silence. That evening, I called an old friend of mine, Frank Delaney, a retired police officer who'd worked fraud cases before. I didn't give him details yet, just asked for advice. "Frank," I said carefully, "if someone suspected a relative was trying to harm them, what would you do?" He didn't hesitate. "You keep your mouth shut. You don't tip them off. You collect every scrap of proof you can find. And then you talk to a lawyer before you talk to anyone else." "Even family?" "Especially family," he said. Those words hit hard, but they rang true. The next day, I started small. I dug through my home office, checking old files. And there was 2 envelopes I didn't recognize, tucked in the wrong folder. One was an insurance pamphlet, the other a flyer from a local real estate agent. On the back of the flyer was a handwritten note in Emily's writing. "Appraisal Monday. Don't forget Dad's signature." My hands shook as I read it. She hadn't just thought about the house. She had scheduled someone to value it. I took photos of everything, backed them up to a cloud account Angela didn't even know about. Then I went to see Graham, the same lawyer who had once helped me with my pension dispute years ago. He listened quietly as I explained, nodding slowly. "William, this is serious. Very serious. If the labs confirm contamination in that wine, and you have proof she's maneuvering for the house, we're not just talking about a family feud. This could qualify as attempted poisoning tied to financial exploitation." The words made my stomach churn. Attempted poisoning. Financial exploitation. Phrases I never thought would apply to my own daughter. "What do I do?" I asked, my voice barely steady. "Exactly what you're already doing," he said firmly. "Don't confront her. Let her keep thinking you're in the dark. Meanwhile, we'll build a case. I'll file protective notice on your property. That way, even if she tries to rush paperwork, it won't go through." I exhaled slowly, the first real breath of relief I'd felt in days. But just as I was leaving his office, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Emily. "Dad, can I come over tonight? I want to talk. Just you and me." I stared at the screen, my pulse hammering. Was it worry? Was she trying to smooth things over? Or was it another step in her plan? Either way, I wasn't about to face her unprepared. I slipped the phone back into my pocket, my mind already turning. If Emily wanted a meeting, then I'd let her come. But this time, the trap wouldn't be for me. It would be for her. When Emily texted me asking to come over that night, I spent hours pacing the living room. Angela was still in the hospital, which meant the house was empty. Maybe Emily thought that gave her the perfect opportunity. I wasn't naive enough to face her alone. Before she arrived, I called Frank, the retired cop. "I need you to sit outside," I said. "Don't come in unless I call. Just watch." He didn't ask many questions. He just grunted. "All right, but don't play hero, Will. If she's already tried once, She might try again. That thought chilled me more than the mountain air ever could. At exactly 7 p.m., Emily's car pulled into the driveway. She walked in with a forced smile, clutching a purse far too tightly. "Dad," she said sweetly, "I just wanted to see you. We don't talk enough." Her voice was smooth, but her eyes darted around the room. I gestured to the chair. "Sit. Let's talk." She settled in, and for a few minutes, we spoke about nothing: the weather, her job, Angela's health. But then her tone shifted. "Dad, you've been working too hard, stressing too much. Maybe it's time to think about the future. You don't want to leave Angela with too much responsibility if something happens." I froze. The word "happens" hung in the air like a blade. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "You know, if you just sign over the house now, it would make things easier for everyone." There it was. The mask slipped. I kept my face calm, even though my heart thundered. "I'll think about it," I said evenly. Her smile widened, relief flashing across her face. "Good. I can bring the papers tomorrow. A friend of mine knows a notary who can handle it quickly." That was the second time I'd heard the word notary in a week. My suspicions were no longer suspicions. They were facts. I nodded slowly. "Tomorrow, then." She left shortly after, satisfied, not knowing Frank's car was still parked across the street, engine idling. The moment she drove off, I called Graham. "She's bringing papers tomorrow." She mentioned a notary. He exhaled sharply. "William, that's it. She's accelerating. We'll be ready. Don't sign a thing. In fact, don't even touch them. We'll set up recording devices." That night, I could barely sleep. I kept thinking back to Emily as a child. The way she used to cling to my hand at the fair, the way she cried when her goldfish died. I wondered, when did that little girl vanish? When did she turn into someone who wanted me gone? But grief had to wait. Survival came first. The next day, Angela was discharged from the hospital. She was weak, but recovering. I didn't tell her everything yet, only that Emily was acting strange, and I needed to be cautious. Angela gave me a worried look. "She's your daughter, Will. Are you sure?" I swallowed hard. I wish I wasn't. At 6 p.m. sharp, Emily returned, this time with a folder in her hand. She sat on the table with a bright, practiced smile. "Just a few signatures, Dad. It'll take 5 minutes." I glanced at the folder. The top page had my name, but the rest was dense legal text. Too dense for a casual transfer. I excused myself, stepping into the kitchen where my phone lay recording everything. I whispered into Mike, "Emily Harris presenting documents, asking for signature transfer." When I came back, she was already flipping pages. "Don't worry about the details, Dad. Just trust me. I'd never do anything to hurt you." The words cut like glass. I leaned back, keeping my hands folded. Maybe we should wait for Angela. She should see this too. Her smile faltered. "Dad, this is between us. Please, just sign." I shook my head slowly. "Not tonight." Her face hardened. The sweetness evaporated. "You always make things harder than they need to be. If you don't trust me now, you'll regret it later." She gathered the papers, shoved them back in the folder, and stormed out, slamming the door. I exhaled, my hands trembling, but inside me burned something stronger than fear. I had her words on record. I had her plan in motion, and soon I'd have proof enough to end this once and for all. The moment Emily's car pulled away, I called Graham. My voice was steady, but my hands shook. She brought papers. I told him, tried to make me sign them. I recorded everything. "Good," he said sharply. "Send me the files. Don't delete the originals. And William, don't be alone with her again if you can avoid it. She's desperate now." That word, desperate, stuck with me. The next morning, I drove Angela back to the hospital for a follow-up. While she was in with the doctor, I sat in the waiting room, scrolling through the recording from last night. Emily's voice was crystal clear. "Just a few signatures, Dad. It'll take 5 minutes. Trust me, I'd never do anything to hurt you." The irony burned. I uploaded the clip to Graham's secure drive, then slipped the phone back in my pocket just as Angela returned. "The doctor says I'm fine," she smiled, relief in her eyes. I smiled back, but inside, I knew nothing was fine. That afternoon, I drove past Emily's house. Her car was in the driveway, but the blinds were drawn. I almost kept driving, but then I noticed something strange. A black sedan parked 2 houses down. A man sat inside, head lowered, staring at his phone. Maybe it was nothing, or maybe Emily wasn't working alone. I parked further down the block, out of sight, and waited. 10 minutes later, the man stepped out, walked straight to Emily's front door, and disappeared inside. My chest tightened. That evening, I reviewed the camera feeds from my own house. I hadn't mentioned it to Emily, but weeks ago I'd installed a set of small cameras inside after a string of local break-ins. Most of the time, they caught nothing but dust. But last night, while I was at Graham's office, the feed showed Emily slipping into my house with a spare key. She went straight to my office, rifling through drawers, tossing papers aside. At one point, she pulled out an envelope and stuffed it into her purse. I froze the frame, zoomed in. It was one of my old insurance folders. Angela's name was printed on the front. I sent the footage to Graham immediately. His reply came minutes later. "She's trying to build a case that you're incompetent, that Angela should control your estate. This is bigger than just the house." I sat back, the weight of it pressing down. She wasn't only cutting me out. She was trying to isolate Angela too, to play us against each other. That night, Angela noticed my silence. "Will, what's wrong?" I looked at her for a long moment, debating whether to tell her. Finally, I said, "Emily's not who you think she is. She wants everything, not just the house. Everything." Angela's hand trembled as she set her glass down. "Your own daughter?" I nodded slowly. I wish I was wrong. The next day, Graham called with more news. The lab results are back. There were traces of sedatives in Angela's blood. Not enough to kill, but enough to incapacitate. My stomach turned. "So the wine?" "Yes, laced. That confirms it." I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles ached. I had suspected, but hearing it confirmed made everything real. "She'll try again," Graham said quietly. "People like this don't stop. They escalate." That evening, Emily called again. Her voice was sharp this time, not sweet. "Dad, we need to settle this. You're being unreasonable. I've already set up meetings with a notary. If you won't cooperate, you'll only make things harder for everyone." I kept my voice calm. "Emily, we'll talk soon." But not tonight. There was silence, then a hiss of frustration. "You're going to regret this." She hung up. I sat in the quiet house, staring at the darkened window. Emily thought she was closing in, but every word she spoke, every step she took, was another thread in the web she was weaving around herself. I had her on recording. I had footage of her stealing from my office. I had proof the wine was tainted. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something stronger than fear. I felt control. And I knew the next move would be mine. The following morning, I sat in Graham's office with a folder full of printed screenshots, audio files, and camera footage. He flipped through each page carefully, nodding as the evidence stacked higher. "William," he said finally, "this isn't a civil dispute anymore. This is attempted poisoning, theft, and fraud. We're turning this over to the sheriff today." My stomach nodded, but I nodded, "Do it." By noon, we were sitting across from a deputy at the sheriff's department. Graham laid everything out, the recordings, a lab report, the footage of Emily rifling through my office. The deputy listened in silence, then said, "We'll open a case, but keep this quiet for now. If she thinks you're suspicious, she might run." I swallowed. She already knows I'm suspicious. The deputy gave me a long look. Then, "Be careful." That evening, Emily showed up again, unannounced this time. Angela was resting in the bedroom when the knock came. I opened the door to find my daughter standing there, folder in hand, her smile brittle. "Dad," she said brightly, "I brought the papers again. I know you were hesitant, but I think if you just read them—" "Not tonight," I said firmly. Her smile twitched. Dad, you're making this harder than it needs to be. I'm trying to help. Angela will thank me when everything's secure. I let the silence stretch, then said, "You should leave." Her eyes narrowed. For a moment, her mask slipped entirely. "You don't understand what's at stake. If you don't sign, you'll regret it." Then she spun on her heel and stormed out. From the kitchen, I heard Angela's trembling voice. "Well, what is she doing?" I walked back, forcing calm, trying to take everything, but she won't succeed. The next day, Graham called with news. The injunction is filed. From this point forward, no changes can be made to your property without court approval. Even if she has forged documents, they're useless now. Relief washed through me, but only for a moment, because then Graham added, "But William, we have reason to believe she's already involved others. That black sedan you mentioned, the plates trace back to a private investigator. My guess is she's trying to build a case that you're incompetent. That way, she gets guardianship and everything with it." Guardianship. The word turned my stomach. That evening, Angela and I went for a short walk around the block. It was the first time she felt strong enough to leave the house. But halfway down the street, I noticed a camera flash, subtle but unmistakable, from a parked car. Emily wasn't just plotting in secret anymore. She was documenting us. Angela gripped my arm. "Why are they watching us?" I exhaled slowly. "Because Emily thinks she's already won. But she doesn't know we're ahead of her." The following morning, Graham and I sat down again. He laid out the plan. Submit all evidence to the DA. Push for a restraining order against Emily. Prepare for a hearing that would expose everything. I asked him quietly, "Do you think she'll stop if we do this?" He met my eyes. "People like Emily don't stop until they're forced to. You have to be ready for her to push harder." That afternoon, my phone buzzed with another text. "Dad, please. I'm only trying to protect you. If you just listen, none of this would have to get ugly." I stared at the message, the false sweetness dripping through every word. Then, less than a minute later, another text arrived. "Sign the papers. Tomorrow, or you'll regret it." The contradiction was almost laughable, the mask slipping with every keystroke. I saved the screenshots, sent them straight to Graham, then turned off my phone. For the first time in weeks, I felt steady. Emily thought she was tightening the noose, but in reality, she was wrapping the rope around her own neck. And soon the whole town would see it. The courthouse smelled of old wood and dust, the kind of place where secrets either died quietly or were dragged screaming into the light. Angela walked beside me slowly, still pale but stronger every day. Graham carried the heavy folder of evidence like a weapon. Emily was already seated at the petitioner's table when we entered. She wore a navy dress, her hair tied neatly, her expression a mask of composure. For a moment, I almost believed it myself. Almost. Until I remembered Angela's weak body curled in that hospital bed. Until I remembered Emily's scream on the phone. "You did what?" She looked up and smiled sweetly, like a dutiful daughter. The lie was almost perfect. The judge entered. The bailiff called the room to order. Graham opened first, laying out the injunction and the evidence. He spoke calmly, steadily, each point landing like a hammer. "Your Honor, my client, William Harris, has been the target of attempted financial exploitation, and we believe attempted poisoning by his daughter, Emily Harris. We have recordings, lab reports, and witnesses." Emily's attorney stood quickly, his tone sharp. "This is absurd. Ms. Harris has done nothing but care for her father. He's paranoid, misled by others. He claims a simple gift of wine was poison. There is no proof she tampered with it." Graham pressed a button. On the screen, Emily's voice played crystal clear. "Just sign the papers, Dad. Trust me, I'd never do anything to hurt you." The words echoed in the silent courtroom. Angela squeezed my hand. Emily's lawyer tried to recover. All this shows his concern. She was trying to ensure her father's affairs were in order. That is not exploitation. That is responsibility. But then Graham produced the footage. Emily rifling through my office, stuffing insurance papers into her purse. The judge leaned forward, frowning. Why would your client need to break into her father's home to obtain documents if she had his consent? The lawyer stammered. Emily's face tightened, her mask cracking at the edges. When it was my turn, the judge asked simple questions. I answered plainly. I explained how Emily had given me the wine, how Angela had fallen ill, how the bottle had vanished the next day. I didn't embellish. I didn't raise my voice. I just told the truth. Emily shifted uncomfortably, her hands twisting in her lap. Then the DA's office representative stood. Your Honor, the lab results confirm the presence of sedatives in Angela Harris's blood, consistent with substances that could be used to incapacitate. This aligns with Mr. Harris's account. The judge's eyes narrowed. During recess, I stepped into the hallway. Emily followed, her heels clicking like gunshots on the tile. Dad, she hissed, her mask on, voice sharp. Why are you doing this? I'm your daughter. I was trying to protect you. I turned slowly. Protect me? By drugging Angela? By stealing my papers? By forcing me to sign away my house? Her eyes flashed. You don't understand. If you just listened, this would have been easier. But you had to make it hard. You always make it hard. Her voice cracked, then softened. It's still not too late. You can fix this. Just say it was all a mistake. I stared at her, cold and steady. The mistake was thinking I'd ever let you win. She blanched, then spun away as the bailiff called us back inside. The judge returned, reviewing notes. His tone was measured but firm. Given the evidence presented, recordings, video surveillance, and medical reports, this court upholds the injunction. Ms. Harris is barred from making any claim to her father's property or finances pending further criminal investigation. The gavel cracked like thunder. Emily's composure finally cracked too. She gasped, tears springing to her eyes, whispering furiously to her lawyer. But it was too late. Angela leaned toward me, whispering softly, "It's over." I shook my head. Not yet, because I knew Emily. She wouldn't walk away quietly, and I wasn't done watching her bury herself. After the injunction, I thought maybe Emily would back off, at least for a while, but she didn't. She just changed tactics. It started small, whispers in the neighborhood. My next-door neighbor, Mrs. Langley, stopped me on the sidewalk one morning. "William, dear," she said gently, "Emily tells me you've been forgetful, that Angela's been struggling to manage things. Is everything all right?" The kindness in her voice cut worse than anger. Emily had gone to her, and if she went to Mrs. Langley, she went to others. That evening, Frank called. "Will, I heard something down at the diner. Folks saying you've been sick, that maybe you're not all there anymore. Sounds like Emily's been running her mouth." I gripped the phone, so tight it creaked. She's poisoning more than wine now. She's poisoning my name. Graham wasn't surprised. "It's textbook," he said. "When people like her realize evidence is piling up, they pivot. If she can't win on paper, she'll try to destroy your credibility in the court of public opinion. That way, even with facts, she'll still have leverage. Can we stop it?" I asked. He tapped the folder. "We will, but we need one more solid piece, something undeniable." 2 nights later, I found it, or rather it found me. Angela was finally home from the hospital, still moving slow, but steady. We were having tea in the kitchen when the doorbell rang. I opened it to see a man I didn't recognize, mid-40s, nervous, holding a small paper bag. "Mr. Harris?" he asked. "Yes." He swallowed. "My name's David Ross. I work at the pharmacy on Main. I sold your daughter something last month. Something she shouldn't have had." My chest tightened. "What was it?" He glanced over his shoulder before lowering his voice. "Strong sedatives. Prescription only. She said it was for her husband. I didn't think much at first, but when I heard about Angela being hospitalized, I put it together. I couldn't keep quiet." Angela gasped softly behind me. I ushered him inside, my heart pounding. "Would you be willing to tell that to a lawyer?" David nodded. "I don't want trouble, but I won't lie either. If it helps protect you, I'll testify." The next day, Graham's eyes lit up when I told him. "This is it, William. We now have a witness connecting her directly to the drugs. That ties everything together. The wine, the lab results, the motive. This isn't speculation anymore. It's attempted poisoning, plain and simple. I exhaled slowly. For weeks, I've been drowning in doubt. But hearing those words, attempted poisoning, plain and simple, steadied me. Still, Graham warned me. She's cornered now. That's when people lash out. Don't underestimate her. That warning proved right almost immediately. That evening, Angela and I returned from the grocery store to find the side gate open. My stomach dropped. I checked the cameras. At 2:17 p.m., while we were out, Emily had entered the backyard. She stood at the back door for nearly 5 minutes, staring to the glass, before finally leaving. No bag, no papers, just standing there, watching. Angela's hand trembled as she gripped my arm. Will, she's not going to stop, is she? I shook my head slowly. No, not until she's made to. The next morning, Graham called again. The DA's office wants a full hearing next week. With the witness, the recordings, the lab results, they're confident. Angela let out a breath of relief. But I wasn't relieved. Not yet, because I knew Emily. She wouldn't walk into that courtroom quietly. She'd make one more move. And when she did, I'd be ready. The week leading up to the hearing felt like walking on cracked ice. Every day, I expected it to break. Emily stopped calling, but her presence was everywhere. Neighbors avoided eye contact. At the diner, I heard my own name in hushed tones, followed by words like confused and unstable. She was still poisoning the air, even if she couldn't touch the house. Angela tried to reassure me. They'll see the truth in court. I wanted to believe her. But Emily wasn't the type to wait quietly for judgment. On Wednesday evening, I got the proof. Frank called me from his truck, his voice low. Will, I tailed her today. She met with a guy downtown, some slick type in a suit, handed him a folder. Looked legal. My stomach tightened. What kind of folder? Couldn't see, but I got a photo of him. He texted it over. A man in his 30s, polished, carrying a leather briefcase. I showed Graham the next morning. His jaw clenched. That's no lawyer. That's a fixer. He's been linked to document fraud cases before. If she's gone to him, she's trying to cover her tracks. Can we stop her? I asked. He leaned forward. We don't need to stop her. We just need to catch her. That Friday, while Angela was napping, I reviewed the camera feeds again. At 11:42 a.m., Emily slipped into my backyard for the second time that week. This time she carried something, a manila envelope. She pushed it through the mail slot in the back door, then looked around nervously before leaving. When I checked the envelope later, my chest tightened. Inside were fresh documents, property transfer forms, my name already forged at the bottom. I took photos, slid the originals into a safe, and called Graham. This is it, he said. Forgery, plain as day. Combined with the witness and the lab results, it seals her fate. Bring them to the hearing. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself a real smile. But Emily wasn't finished. That Saturday evening, Angela and I drove to the grocery store. When we came back, a note was taped to the front door. Dad, stop fighting. You're only hurting yourself. Sign the papers and this all goes away. Angela's hands shook as she read it. She's getting reckless. I nodded grimly. Reckless people make mistakes. I saved the note in a folder with everything else. Every threat, every whisper, every forged page, all of it was fuel for fire that would burn her plan to the ground. The night before the hearing, I barely slept. I sat in the living room, watching the feeds. At 2:14 a.m., Emily appeared again. She didn't try to enter. She just stood in the yard, staring at the house, her face pale in the moonlight. For 10 full minutes, she didn't move. I didn't move either. I just watched, cold and steady, until she finally walked away. Angela stirred when I came to bed. What is it? She whispered. I kissed her forehead. It ends tomorrow. The courthouse was full of this time. Reporters, neighbors, even strangers packed the benches. Emily sat stiffly at her table, her lawyer whispering frantically in her ear. Her mask was cracking. As Graham arranged the files, he leaned close to me. Today, William, we don't just defend. We expose. This is where she falls. I nodded slowly, my pulse steady, because I knew, by the end of the day, Emily wouldn't just lose. She'd be ruined. The courtroom was packed wall to wall. Reporters lined the back, notebooks ready. Neighbors whispered in the benches, some glancing at me with pity, others with curiosity. Everyone had heard the rumors Emily spread. Today, they'd hear the truth. Emily sat at her table, shoulders stiff, a fake calm plastered on her face. But her eyes darted, wide and restless. Her lawyer shuffled papers, whispering frantically, but she barely listened. She knew what was coming. The judge entered. The bailiff called for order. Graham stood, his voice steady. Your Honor, today we present final evidence in the matter of William Harris versus Emily Harris. We submit testimony, documentation, and physical evidence proving attempted financial exploitation, forgery, and attempted poisoning. The judge nodded. Proceed. First came David Ross, the pharmacist. He testified quietly, hands folded, that Emily had purchased sedatives under false pretenses. Her lawyer tried to discredit him, but David didn't waver. I sold them to her. And I remember her words exactly. It's for my husband. The courtroom buzzed. Then Graham played the recording. Emily urging me to sign the papers, promising it would only take 5 minutes. Her voice filled the room, smooth at first, then cracking when I refused. Finally, he held up the forged documents she'd slipped through my door. Your Honor, this is my client's signature, or rather, a poor imitation of it. Compare it with his driver's license signature. They don't match. The judge leaned forward, examining closely. His frown deepened. When it was Emily's turn, she stood, her hands trembling. Your Honor, she began, her voice too sweet. I was only trying to protect my father. He's confused. He forgets things. I wanted to make sure Angela wouldn't struggle when. Graham cut in. Then why forge his name? Why drug his wife? Her composure cracked. I never... But then the DA's representative stepped forward, holding the lab results. Traces of sedatives were found in Angela Harris's blood, consistent with the very medication purchased by Ms. Harris. The timeline aligns perfectly. Emily's face drained of color. The judge slammed his gavel once. Enough. Silence filled the courtroom. The judge's voice was steady, final. This court finds sufficient evidence of forgery, attempted fraud, and attempted poisoning. All motions by the petitioner are denied. Emily Harris is hereby barred from any claim to William Harris's property or finances. Furthermore, this case is referred to the district attorney for criminal proceedings. The gavel fell again. The sound echoed like thunder. Emily froze, mouth open, eyes wide. Her lawyer whispered frantically, but she shoved him away. This isn't fair, she screamed. Her voice cracked, desperate. He's lying. He's old. He doesn't even know what he's saying. But the courtroom wasn't buying it. The neighbors, the reporters, the strangers, they all stared at her with disgust. The daughter who tried to erase her father for a house. 2 deputies approached. She shrank back, shaking her head, tears streaking her face. Dad, please. I stood slowly, meeting her eyes with a calm I hadn't felt in weeks. You gave me a bottle of wine to erase me, I said coldly. Instead, you erase yourself. The deputies took her by the arms. Her screams echoed down the hall as they led her away. When the courtroom emptied, I sat quietly, Angela's hand resting on mine. Reporters shouted questions, but I ignored them. The truth was simple. My house was mine. My life was mine. My dignity was mine. And Emily had nothing.